The New York Islanders blow another late lead to the New Jersey Devils, but we'll tell you why this one doesn't hurt quite as bad as some of the others. We've got that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So much to discuss. This is a crazy time, really, for the New York Islanders. And we're going to start, obviously, with Saturday's disappointing overtime loss to the New Jersey Devils. And, you know, you look at this at first blush, and you're like, okay, deja vu all over again. Islanders had a 3-1 lead with 4.5 minutes left in the game, and they let it slip away. And Dawson Mercer scores, and then the Devils pull the goalie, and they score in the final minute. And then Jack Hughes, the overtime game winner, game over. Islanders blow another lead, get another loser point, and everybody goes home unhappy. And you know what? Yeah. When you have that kind of a lead late in the game, especially at home, especially against a division rival, it's painful to not get the 2 points. But I'll say this. The Islanders are still playing significantly shorthanded. They are down 2/3 of their top line. They are down half of their defensemen, their typical starting six. They are essentially playing a rookie who has now been in, 3 NHL games and only had 4 or 5 AHL games before that. They're playing, basically guys who are either solid AHL players or 7th NHL defensemen in Dennis Cholowski and Grant Hutton. And that's not to insult those guys. It's just the reality of where they're at this stage in their careers. And still to come away with a point. We've talked about the need for this team to hang around and play 500 hockey or NHL 500 hockey until you get, Adam Pelech and Matthew Barzal and Anthony Duclair and Mike Reilly and Alexander Romanov, until you get those guys back. The goal is to stick around and play 500 hockey, and then when your guys are healthy, start to, really play better and battle for that playoff spot. Well, given all of that, as disappointing as this loss was, I'm not as bothered by it as I would have been if this team was at full strength. And, Patrick Waugh, after the game, he tried to address, he said he's not going to change his team's approach to these late game situations. This team always seems to struggle when they have a lead, cannot defend after the other team pulls their goalie. They are just really bad at that. And it is extremely frustrating. And, another bad defensive game for Noah Dobson. He was a -2, the only player on the Islanders who was a -2 in this game. The penalty kill, once again, they only allowed 2 power plays, but the Devils scored on one of them, and that ended up tying the game. There were just things that were frustrating to watch, and yet, to come away with a point against the Devils when you're this banged up and shorthanded, when you're fielding, basically you're missing 5 important players. I can't get as angry as I normally would given the circumstances. So, I mean, was it frustrating? Absolutely. Should they have won this game? Yeah, they probably should have. But, at the same time, given the circumstances, they got the point. And, if I would have told you before the game that the Islanders played the Devils even for 60 minutes and got the game to overtime, would you have taken that? I think most Islander fans going into the game would say yes. I got to give some credit in this game to Dennis Cholowski. He only played 6 minutes and 45 seconds. He, made a bad turnover that led to one of the New Jersey goals. And clearly, Patrick Roy wasn't comfortable playing him a lot in this game. No other Islanders defenseman played less than 15:41, and here's Cholowski at 6:45 in ice time for the game. And yet, after he makes that play, and yeah, he did sit a little bit after that, Patrick Roy puts him back out there, and Cholowski ends up scoring the goal that put the Islanders ahead 2-1. If I ask you who leads all Islanders defensemen in goals scored, okay, it's with 2, but the answer is Dennis Cholowski. And when you consider how few games he's played and how little ice time he's gotten, that is really surprising. But I give him credit for at least bouncing back under those circumstances. Isaiah George, another, good outing, 24 minutes and change. He he did he was out of position on one of the goals, but I think Dobson was the bigger problem on that goal. And look, let's face it, there was a bad bounce on one of those late goals that ended up helping the Devils tie the game and send it to overtime. Same problem in overtime. The Islanders had their chances, couldn't finish, ended up getting caught up ice. And you had that great pass by Dougie Hamilton to Jack Hughes, and the puck ends up in the back of the net. Game over. But, it just, this team is so shorthanded right now that I can't get too down on them, as frustrated as I was by the fact that they couldn't hold the lead. There is a logical explanation for it, and you at least got the point. Hero and go to the game, I'm going to go with Simon Holmstrom as the hero. He had a goal. He had an assist. The goal was pretty. And I just liked the fact that he played better. I think his game is better suited to the bottom 6 without question. Having him out there with Casey Cizikas and Pierre Engvall makes a lot more sense than trying to play him on the top line with Bo Horvat. I just think his game at this point is better when it's kept simple. And, some of those plays he made were just absolutely great. So to me, Holmstrom in this particular instance ends up as the hero of the game. Go to the game. I hate to do it, but I got to give it to Noah Dobson. And, he's a -2, as I said, only the one shot on goal, 2 giveaways, which tied him with too many other players for the team lead, but out of position again on multiple occasions. And he's just got to be more aware in his own zone. I don't expect Noah Dobson to all of a sudden become a shutdown defender. That is not his game. It never was his game. It probably never will be. But I need him to be better than what he's been so far in his own zone. Just be aware, be smart, keep it simple. And we're just not seeing enough of that from him. So he gets my GOAT of the game. But overall, you get the point. You show a little resilience in the case of Cholowski, in the case of Holmstrom. I think Ilya Sorokin was solid. I can't blame him really for any of the goals that were allowed. The game winner was a breakaway. One goal was a bad bounce. A couple of times, defensemen were out of position or let a guy go. There were screens. Got to clean it up a little bit more in your own zone. But when you're missing all of your, one of the defensemen on one side, it is really hard, really, really hard to play with different combinations and different players and expect a better result than what we're getting. So overall, you look at the standings and the Islanders still struggling, but in fifth place right now in the Metro, 6-6-3. They are at NHL 500. There's a big gap right now in the fact that they're 4 points behind the Rangers, who are in fourth, but the Rangers have 2 games in hand, 5 points behind the Capitals. The Capitals have 1 game in hand, and then 5 points behind the Hurricanes, who have 2 games in hand. So you could see the distance right now between these players, these other teams and the Islanders. But like I said, you got to hang in there until you get a little healthier. Keep accumulating those loser points if you need to, and just keep on playing the best you can play. It doesn't get any easier now. We have a long 5-game road trip going out to Edmonton, Vancouver, Seattle, Calgary, and Detroit. Some of those are winnable games, and let's see if the Islanders, my goal, again, for this road trip, 5 points in 5 games. You do that, you're sticking around and going to be in that playoff hunt, and each game takes, 1 game off the schedule that you're playing without your star players, or at least some of them. So hopefully we're getting closer and closer to some of these guys returning. All right, we have got a lot more to discuss. We will talk about some bad news for Mike Reilly, some good news concerning the Islanders Hall of Fame. We'll also answer a couple of your mailbag questions. So we got that and a whole lot more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Prize Picks. You could win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. And when my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So download the Prize Picks app and use code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. Again, download the app, code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by your friends at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And, one of my favorite features on the Game Time app is the view from your seat. You go on the app and you can see a panoramic view from the seat you're about to buy before you purchase the tickets, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Did not mention, by the way, our Islanders' birthday of the day. And just as the clue, a winger who was only briefly an Islander in the late 70s for part of one season, but he later went on to become a successful NHL coach. Let's see if you can guess who this province of Quebec native is. So let's see if you can, figure that one out. Let me know your guesses in the comments if you're watching this on our premiere on YouTube. All right. Some bad news concerning Mike Reilly over the weekend. And this again isn't unexpected, but it's disappointing. Reilly now out indefinitely and has been placed on injured reserve. Now, originally, Reilly was listed as day-to-day with an upper body injury. They're still not specifying what the injury is, although it could be or is rumored to possibly be a concussion. Regardless of what it is, he is out indefinitely. That's a big step up from day to day. So you're still missing Matthew Barzal. You're still missing Adam Pelech. You're still missing, as of right now, Alexander Romanov. And Reilly just not going to be there. Now, Reilly kind of struggling a little bit this year as compared to last year. Hasn't been as dynamic offensively or as consistent defensively. But obviously, the Islanders could use him. Isaiah George, he continues to play well. And maybe the only silver lining for Reilly's long-term absence is that you have the ability to plug Isaiah George into the lineup. And I think out of the three, based on ice time so far, it looks like if one of them is going to stay up, let's assume that Alexander Romanov manages to rejoin the team. Let's say relatively soon. He would probably be the first one back, and then whether it's Reilly or Pelech coming back next, that remains to be seen. But I kind of get the feeling that Cholowski would go back to being the seventh defenseman. Hutton would probably be the next guy to be sent down or to leave the lineup. And then when two guys come back, you end up plugging in Isaiah George and leaving him out there. So that is at least beneficial or comforting for the Islanders, but you don't want to lose Mike Reilly, and we certainly wish Reilly a complete and speedy recovery given the difficult circumstances. Now, there was some good news over the weekend, the Islanders announcing that on January 18th, before their game against the San Jose Sharks, they will be inducting Brent Sutter into the Islanders Hall of Fame. Sutter, a first-round pick of the Islanders back in 1980, and he made his NHL debut in 80-81, but only played 3 games. Became a full-time player by 82-83, had 21 goals the previous year, 81-82, and really had one outstanding offensive season where he scored 42 goals and 102 points in 1984-85. But overall, here's a guy who was a captain of this team, who won 2 Stanley Cups with the Islanders, and really was a heart and soul kind of a player. Lou Lamoriello releasing a statement: "We are honored to celebrate one of the all-time New York Islanders greats, Brent Sutter. Brent was a key member of the 82 and 83 Stanley Cup championship teams and was a leader, serving as the 4th team captain in club history. He took pride in his role and epitomized what an Islander is all about. 694 career games on the island, 287 goals, 323 assists. He is 6th all-time in goals and points. And, again, to me, deserving of the Islanders Hall of Fame. I'm still waiting for Pat LaFontaine, though. I think LaFontaine is sort of the missing element right now. I know there have been issues between LaFontaine and the organization over the years. Guys, both sides, it's time to bury the hatchet. Let's get these players back. Let's get LaFontaine back into the fold, and he deserves to be in the Islanders Hall of Fame. Let's hope that happens. But congratulations to Brent Sutter. Very much deserved that he will be in the Islanders Hall of Fame, and looking forward to that ceremony come January. All right. We have got some questions to answer from you. We've got a couple of mailbag questions. And again, if you have a question or a comment or a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars NYR VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I'm live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for instant insight and analysis. And it's always great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. So join us for that. So we'll answer your mailbag questions. We'll have our Islanders birthday of the day. We've got that and more still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Islander fans, the Islanders head west for their West Coast road trip. Check out all the latest odds for all 5 games of the road trip on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So let's go to the mailbag. Got a couple of questions to answer today. The first one is from our friend Colin. Colin says, love the podcast. Do you think it's time to start the rebuild and trade away the old guys and or Pierre Engvall? Year after year, Lou has been trading away our picks and good prospects for a team that is just going to make the wild card or third in the Metro just to lose in the first round. This also doesn't affect the parent level, but it also affects Bridgeport. Each Wednesday, I listen to the Farm Report, and I hear that nothing is getting better in the AHL. We don't need to keep bringing back Matt Martin and Casey Cizikas. Keeping those players is blocking the younger players, but we don't have any good high-end prospects because Lou is getting rid of the prospects. Do you think basically it's time to move on? And then lastly, what do you think of Isaiah George? Could he replace Bolduc? All right, I'll take the second question first. Isaiah George has already replaced Bolduc, and I think he will have more of a role for the foreseeable future, as I mentioned in the last segment. And Colin, thank you for the question. The other part of this, though, Colin, is, I think it's past time when it comes to Lou Lamoriello. He either needs to change his approach, which he's not going to do, and help make this team younger, faster, and more skilled, or ownership has to make a decision. And to me, the time to do it is not like right now, because this team still will probably be in the battle for a playoff spot. But you wait and see if these injuries knock the team out of the playoff race, which is entirely possible. You could start the retool in, at or before the trade deadline. and there are a lot of guys who you can move on from. So we have to see what ends up happening there. But I think, Pierre Engvall, if you can find someone to take that contract, God bless. Go for it. If there are other veterans who, if the team is not contending, Kyle Palmieri can be traded at the trade deadline. You got a lot of guys, though, with no trade clauses or modified no trade clauses that will make it harder to unload some of these players, but we'll see how it all works out. Yes, it is time to retool. You still have guys you could build around, but, this core, I think, maxed out 3 years ago when they, reached the conference final back-to-back years. Now it's been 3 years. This year would be the fourth year if they don't win a playoff series. That tells me it's time to change the core. The next question is from John in Somerville, New Jersey. Every day you're here, but first time reaching out for the mailbag. The question is, thinking ahead to once guys get healthy, given the injuries and the newfound chemistry of Lee, Horvat, and Pajot, would it make sense to keep that line together as well as Nelson, Siplikov, and Palmieri, and then maybe have another line of Barzal, Duclair, and maybe Holmstrom? This approach would not be a third line, but almost like rolling three well-distributed second lines. John, I think it's a possibility. I do like the way Pajot, Lee, and Horvat have been playing. Definitely Pajot and Lee have picked up their games since the injuries and even a little before the injuries in the case of Lee. I think you would have a lot of balance if you were to go with these combinations. Now, remember, John, Patrick Waugh mixes and matches his lines throughout most games. So it's not like, oh, yeah, this line is etched in stone and we're not going to move on from it. But I think if you do the three trios that you described, you have three lines that can score. You have balance. You have a lot more depth than this team has had in a while. And I think there is potential there. So I like that approach, John. We have to see what Patrick Waugh does. It may be a while before everyone is healthy. Fingers crossed, though, that we get there and that Patrick Waugh figures out the best combination of forwards to get this offense playing a little bit better, at least, to get them at least to average in goal scoring. All right, thank you both for the questions. Always appreciate it. Again, lockedonislanders@gmail.com if you want to add a question, and please do feel free. All right, time for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 70th birthday of former Islanders winger Michel Bergeron. Bergeron, originally a fourth-round pick of the Red Wings in 1974, and he was drafted in the WHA by Les Nordiques of Quebec in the sixth round that same year, but signed with the Wings, made his NHL debut in 1974-75, joined the Islanders midway through the 77-78 season, only played 25 games with the Islanders, but had 9 goals and 15 points in those 25 games, then went on to play for the Capitals and finished his NHL career in the AHL and IHL, played in 229 career NHL games, 80 goals and 138 points, plus 165 penalty minutes. Never did appear in a postseason game. But boy, when he was with the Islanders, and he wasn't there long, he was productive. His best game as an Islander, clearly December 20th, 1977, Islanders hosting the Colorado Rockies, who are, of course, now the New Jersey Devils, at the Nassau Coliseum. Chico Resch, the goalie for the Islanders. Doug Favell, the goalie for Colorado. And it was our Islanders' birthday of the day, Michel Bergeron, scoring the first 2 goals of the game less than a minute apart. First, it was his 7th from Billy Harris and Dennis Potvin at 4:21. And then at 5:03, Bergeron from JP Parise and Billy Harris, 2-0 Islanders after 1 period. With the score 3-1 after 2 periods, then the Islanders poured on, and Bergeron ends up assisting on a goal by Billy Harris, early in the period and another one by Billy Harris late in the period. The Islanders go on to crush the Rockies by a score of 9-1. Chico Resch with 32 saves in this one, but for Michel Bergeron, our Islanders' birthday of the day, 2 goals, 4 points, a +4. He had the game winner, and he had 6 shots on goal, which led the Islanders under the circumstances. And, he also ended up coaching in the NHL for many years and was pretty darn good as a coach. So give him credit for that. Bergeron, a better coach than he was a player. I'll say that much. But Michel Bergeron, who, again, not very well remembered for his playing days, but as a coach, coached the Nordique, coached the Rangers. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, we will be back tomorrow. We will have our preview of the Islanders' first game of the road trip in Edmonton. Now, don't forget, this week, with the late games, Tuesday, 9 o'clock start, 9 o'clock Eastern time, Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time. If those games finish late, well, the 9 o'clock game will probably delay the start of our usual midnight premiere on YouTube, probably go to 12:30 or 1, and probably be maybe 1:30 or 2 on Thursday night / Friday morning. But we will, as soon as we get those episodes ready, we will have them, and I will be in the chat room for the premiere. So if you can stay up late and join us, please do. And as soon as we don't have late games, we'll go back to our regular start premiere of midnight. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.